What if the most nourishing part of a meal was the part that was meant to be thrown away? For generations of African Americans, this wasn't a question. It was the secret to survival, found in the liquid at the bottom of a pot, a humble elixir known as pot liquor. To understand pot liquor, you have to understand the ingredients of necessity. Enslaved people were often given the toughest, most mature greens from the garden, the ones the plantation owners wouldn't eat. To make these fibrous leaves edible, they had to be cooked for hours, a long, slow simmer in a single pot. Along with the greens went the least desirable cuts of salted or smoked meat, a ham hock, fatback, a turkey neck. These cast-off ingredients were all they had to build a meal. The water in that pot bubbled away for hours, absorbing the essence of everything it touched. This wasn't just leftover cooking water, it was a transformation. As the greens and salty meat stewed for hours, they released their nutrients and minerals into the broth. The resulting pot liquor was a warm, savory, and powerfully concentrated vitamin shot. It was often served as a first course, sipped from a cup to warm the stomach and provide a burst of energy after a long day in the fields. It was given to the sick to help them recover, and to babies and the elderly as a form of liquid medicine. It was the ultimate way to stretch a meal, ensuring that every single drop of nutrition from their meager rations was captured and consumed, often by sopping it up with dense, crumbly cornbread. But here is the profound, unspoken irony of pot liquor. The plantation owners, who ate the young, tender leaves of the greens, often cooked them quickly to preserve their texture. They believed they were keeping the best for themselves. What they never understood, what science would only later confirm, was that the long, slow cooking process required to make the tough greens edible was actually leaching the most vital, water-soluble nutrients out of the leaves and concentrating them in the broth. They were eating the fiber, but throwing the life force away. The enslaved were given the scraps, and in their genius for survival, they captured the gold. This humble broth, born from hardship, was often more nutritionally powerful than the food served on the master's table. It wasn't just sustenance, it was a quiet, culinary act of defiance. Imagine a time before ovens, before skillets, even before proper kitchens. A time when bread wasn't baked, but born directly from the very heart of the fire. This is the story of ash cakes, a fundamental, primal bread that linked the earth, the flame, and the hands that brought it to life. Ash cakes, or sometimes hoe cakes, though true ash cakes were cooked directly in the coals, were the most basic form of bread for enslaved African Americans. With no access to proper baking equipment, ingenuity was paramount. Corn, a staple crop in the Americas, was readily available and could be ground into meal. Mixed with just water and perhaps a little salt if they were lucky, this simple dough was patted into small, flat rounds. The trick then was to find the perfect spot in the cooling embers of a fire, where the heat was just right, hot enough to cook, but not so hot as to burn to an unpalatable crisp. Ash cakes were more than just food. They were a lifeline. Quick to prepare and cook, they provided essential calories and sustenance after long, brutal days of labor. This simple cornbread could be eaten plain, wrapped in leaves for a portable meal in the fields, or used to sop up precious pot liquor. They were a source of comfort, a familiar texture, and a simple, nourishing carbohydrate that kept bodies fueled. The smoky flavor imparted by the ashes became a distinctive taste, a flavor memory passed down through generations, even as cooking methods evolved. It was a testament to making something out of virtually nothing, a reliable source of energy in the harshest conditions. And here's the startling truth. While plantation owners enjoyed their refined, wheat-based breads baked in brick ovens, often prepared by the very same enslaved cooks, the ash cake represented something far more profound for those who made it. It was a direct connection to ancient cooking methods, echoes of African traditions where food was often cooked directly over or in fire. But beyond that, the act of making and eating an ash cake was an act of personal autonomy, however small. It was their bread, made with their hands, from their ingenuity, cooked with the most basic elements of the earth and fire. It was a daily ritual that affirmed existence and resilience, turning the barest of provisions into something deeply satisfying. It was bread born of struggle, but imbued with a powerful spirit of survival that tastes unlike anything from a modern oven. In the world we live in now, stale bread is often seen as a failure, something to be thrown to the birds, or turned into croutons as an afterthought. But in the kitchens of the past, it was something else entirely. It was a promise, the promise of tomorrow's breakfast. Kush was the ingenious solution to yesterday's cornbread. This savory, hearty scramble was a breakfast staple for generations. The method was simple. Stale cornbread was crumbled into a hot skillet, often with rendered fat for flavor and moisture. To this base, a cook would add whatever was on hand: a bit of onion, some wild garlic, or any leftover scraps of meat or vegetables. The mixture was stirred and fried until it formed a thick, porridge-like hash. Its very name, Kush, is believed to be a whisper from a distant homeland, echoing West African dishes made from millet or sorghum. The importance of Kush cannot be overstated. In a world of scarcity, it was the embodiment of the waste not, want not philosophy. Every crumb of precious cornbread was honored and given a second life. But more than that, it was a powerhouse of calories. This was not a light meal. It was fuel, a plate of pure, unadulterated energy, designed to sustain a body through hours of grueling physical labor under the hot southern sun. Its versatility meant it was a reliable fixture, a hearty start to the day that could be adapted to whatever the pantry or the garden provided. But to think of Kush as just leftovers is to completely miss the point. This was never a dish of shame. It was a dish of pride. It was a testament to a cook's artistry, a culinary magic trick that spun the old into the new, the stale into the sublime. The ability to create a savory, delicious feast from the scraps of yesterday was a mark of honor, a sign of a well-run, resourceful home. It was a daily declaration that you were the master of your kitchen, no matter how bare the cupboards might be. Kush teaches us a powerful lesson, that true wealth isn't found in what you have, it's found in what you can create from what you have left. There are certain foods that are more than just a meal. They are a test, a dividing line of memory and tradition. And perhaps no dish in the soul food canon draws a clearer line in the sand or forces a more difficult conversation than chitlins. Their story begins at the hog butchery. When a pig was slaughtered on the plantation, the choicest cuts, the loin, the ribs, the hams, were reserved for the owner's table. The enslaved were given what was left, the offal, the feet, the ears, the snout, and most notoriously, the intestines or chitlins. But this was not a simple scrap to be cooked. Preparing them was a monumental task, a foul-smelling and painstaking process of cleaning that could take days of meticulous rinsing, scraping, and boiling just to make them safe to eat. This was the ultimate act of culinary alchemy. Through sheer will and knowledge, the most rejected part of the animal was transformed into a celebrated delicacy. The long, slow simmer with onions, hot pepper, and vinegar turned them tender and flavorful. It was a vital source of protein that turned absolute waste into survival. More than that, it became a dish of community and celebration. The difficult work of cleaning them was often shared, and because of the labor involved, chitlins were reserved for special occasions, especially New Year's Day, symbolizing a hope for making the best of what you're given in the year to come. And this is the complicated, shocking soul of chitlins. The very same dish that represents triumph and resilience to one generation can feel like a painful inheritance to another. For many who endured hardship, the smell and taste of chitlins is the flavor of survival, of community, of turning nothing into a feast. But for many in the younger generations, it's a visceral reminder of the subjugation that made the dish necessary in the first place. It is, to them, the taste of eating scraps from the master's table. This one controversial dish forces a powerful, ongoing debate within African American culture itself about which parts of the past to honor and which to leave behind. Chitlins are not just food. They are a conversation with the ancestors and sometimes a difficult argument. On the hottest day of summer, when the air is thick and the sun is relentless, what do you reach for? A cold bottle of water? A sugary sports drink? What if one of the most effective thirst quenchers ever created came not from a modern laboratory, but from a simple 19th century farm jug? It was called Haymaker's Punch, or more commonly, Switchel. This was the original Gatorade of the American field hand. Long before engineered drinks, this non-alcoholic tonic was the key to surviving a day of back-breaking labor. The recipe was simple and brilliant. Water, sweetened with molasses, the most available and mineral-rich sweetener for enslaved people, and given a tangy, acidic kick from apple cider vinegar. Often, a bit of spicy ginger was added to aid digestion and add flavor. This mixture was made in large batches and kept as cool as possible, ready to provide relief from the brutal heat. This wasn't just about wetting the tongue. It was about refueling the body on a cellular level. The molasses provided a quick dose of sugar for energy, but also crucial electrolytes like potassium, which were lost through sweat. The vinegar, surprisingly, worked to quench thirst far more effectively than plain water. And modern science now suggests its acidic properties may help trigger the saliva glands and signal to the brain that thirst is being satisfied. It was a scientifically perfect combination of hydration and energy, created from the most basic of ingredients. For the field hand, a cup of switchel was a moment of life-saving respite. But the origins of this wisdom may reveal a grim and shocking truth. For centuries, farmers and horsemen had known that adding a bit of vinegar to the water for their livestock helped the animals endure the heat and work longer without getting sick. It was simple, practical agricultural science. The enslaved people, who were often the primary caretakers of these animals, were brilliant observers. They saw what kept the beasts of burden going, and in the most dehumanizing of parallels, applied that same logic to their own survival. This drink is a monument to their ingenuity, but it's also a chilling reminder of a system that viewed their bodies as engines of labor. They took a piece of animal husbandry and quietly turned it into an act of human preservation.